Hey there, welcome to our Steelers show. I'm Chris. Got Joe with me. Paul is, I was going to say detained, but it sounds like he's arrested. Yeah,
It does sound. It does. That's not the right word.
yeah, he's,
Paul has been detained.
or I was going to say held up, but that sounds weird too. He's not
Paul
been
is
held up.
Paul is a victim of a holdup right
Yes,
now.
yes.
He is currently being held up, and so we just
He'll be
started the
back in
show
the house.
without him. We're not helping him
Yes.
or calling for help or anything. This is the priority.
Paul's away for now. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah.
All right. Lots to talk about tonight. Kind of weird, stunning news. I hate to say surprising, but
It's definitely the news of the day here because we're recording on Wednesday night.
Yep. Kind of a weird week. Christmas is Sunday. So a lot of the games are going to be held on Saturday.
Yeah, a lot of them. That was a big list. That's a ton of games.
Yeah. There's 2 primetime games on Sunday, 1 primetime game on Monday. The Steelers got the Saturday night game. Now, this week is the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. So the thought process was, hey, bring the Raiders into town, have some memories, blah, blah, blah. Everything is okay. But honor Franco Harris. I mean, obviously, Franco was the guy who caught the pass, scored the touchdown. But sadly, Franco died overnight, Tuesday. So from what I understand, they're still going to go through with the ceremony. Big celebration, but sadly, instead of honoring a living Franco, Franco's gone.
I'm sure there'll be some type of video package tribute to Harris in totality, but then also mentioning his obvious central focus on the Immaculate Reception.
Yeah,
well.
It's a very strange. I mean, they were retiring his number tonight, Saturday night and everything. I mean, Franco, it was funny. I'm 47. I started following the Steelers when I was 6 or 7. It was kind of near the end of Franco Harris's career and Terry Bradshaw and Joe Green and everything. So I kind of saw the late version of Franco Harris as a kid. Didn't know much about Franco during the Super Bowl era. I got a little frustrated with Franco because he run out of bounds and there was a contract dispute. So Franco didn't even end his career with the Steelers. He played his last year with the Seattle Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting. We talked once in probably one of our worst podcasts of all time. We tried to go through a 70s Steelers season. And if you remember, quarterbacks weren't having stunning numbers at that time. Like we talk about the franchise quarterbacks today, it almost seemed like the franchise running back was the big deal in the 70s. You needed to have that stunning star running back, the guy that could carry it 25 times a game and get 125, 150 yards a game. The league's different now, but that was very important back then. And, Franco Harris was that guy for the Steelers. And when everything was good, Franco was that guy. And he really helped put the Steelers into that 4 Super Bowl category. So, yeah, he was very impressive in that thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like you could only take a look at the footage from the 70s of the NFL as a game back then, and the kinds of things that defensive backs were getting away with back in that day. Passing was not nearly as vital as it is now. You needed somebody that was going to eat clock more than eat yards. And so, the running back position was a different thing in that time, and he was definitely an outstanding star for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 1970s. I mean, I wasn't a big football fan during those years. I had yet to have my football awakening. I like to say it like that. I mean, not to a lot of people because it also sounds a little weird, but so Franco Harris is a little bit before my time as a football fan, but looking back historically and looking back at Steelers history and even that horrible podcast that we did where we were looking back at that season, it's no doubt that that position was just central to the team in the 70s and its success during that era.
Yeah, even into the 80s and 90s, like that workhorse running back was so important in NFL teams. The one thing that struck me is like when the Steelers got good again in the 90s, it was funny because like Barry Foster was a good running back for a couple of years for the Steelers. None of the Steelers running backs in the 90s that they all did well for a time, they didn't have the longevity of Franco Harris. I mean, Franco Harris was that guy, not just for a couple of years, but for most of a decade.
Yeah.
So that was impressive too with him. Yeah, the Immaculate Reception again. That was before I was born. But yeah, it just that seemed to be the play. I'm looking back at Franco was 72. It was 50 years ago. He caught that pass when he was 22. So this was a young Franco Harris. It was like the Najee Harris age of him. And I read so much today talking about, man, this was what propelled the Steelers into that next level. I mean, they were to the point where they didn't get past a certain point in the playoffs. They had that big catch, and now the Steelers are becoming a Super Bowl team. So
There's
that
just
play
something
alone.
there's something sometimes to just a supernatural moment when in the mythos of football, when you feel like the gods are on your side, it
Right.
just changes your mentality in the game, and you just become a whole different level of team. And that was the hand of God reaching down and saying immaculately, this is a team that's going to be successful for a while. And you just, as a player, you just start to believe it. And after years of, having a hard time believing it, when you just don't see that evidence, and then there it is, there's this event that happens, and it just propels you forward.
It was weird because the Raiders were supposed to be better going this year. The Steelers were supposed to be a little bit better. Both the Raiders and Steelers have a chance of the playoffs, but you've all probably seen this by now. There's charts showing what has to happen for the Steelers. There's
That ridiculous chart where it's
yeah,
like 157,000 things, and you
right.
feel like, oh, there's no way in the world that could happen. There was a chart that was very similar to that last year.
Well,
Ridiculous things had to happen last year for the Steelers to get into the playoffs, and it happened. So I'm not ruling it out yet.
Here's the crazy thing. I think it was like 5-6 years ago. The Steelers were having a rough year. They had to have literally 9 games go the same way. 8 of them went the same way. And I don't know if you remember this. I think the last game was like a Chargers-Chiefs game. And the Chiefs were supposed to win, but they already had their spot locked up in the playoffs. They rested all their starters.
Mm-hmm.
They still almost beat the Chargers. The Chargers won at the last second to knock the Steelers out of the playoffs. But it was crazy. Like with 2 weeks left, literally 9 games had to go the same way. Every game until the last game went that way too. But I mean, let's be honest. The Steelers, the strange losses they had early in the year against the Patriots and the Jets and the Browns, they're going against them because these are the teams you have to leap over. But each of those teams has the tiebreaker if they tie the Steelers. So that's why 50 things have to go the right way for the Steelers.
Right.
If one of those
It's
games
like
differently,
if you go down the list, there's some of these that you're like, oh, if the Jaguars lose 1 out of 3, like, oh yeah, that'll probably happen. But if you're asking Miami to lose the final 3 games, that's a little tougher.
Well, and everything has.
And the Chargers have to lose the Chargers have to lose their final 3 games, but they're playing Indianapolis, Dallas, and Denver. So who knows?
Well, I mean, it's possible. Anything's possible. And some of those games, just think, hey, it could happen, but everything has to happen the right way.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not. So
it's a big list.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. It's interesting because going into the season, you think, well, the Raiders may be a playoff team, or the Steelers may be a playoff team, so this means a little bit more. It really doesn't mean as much in terms of the playoff picture. I'm wondering. Obviously, the fans, I'm sure, are going to be jacked up because Franco meant a lot. I'm wondering if that's going to kind of propel this game into more of I wonder if the Steelers going to care more about this game. I think the Steelers want to win this game either way. I think they want to finish the year out in a proper way. But is this game going to take more energy because they're honoring Franco and Franco died this week? Like I'm wondering if that's going to make this into more of a
like are they going to put his number on their helmets? Like that becomes a whole nother thing.
Well, let's think about last year with Ben's last home game.
Right.
I mean, the Steelers were still out of the playoff. They weren't a certainty for the playoffs by any means.
Right.
But that game took on just like a mystique because that was Ben's last game. And even though Ben didn't play super well, man, that was a memorable game. I mean, there were, he was taking laps after the game and everything else. So I'm wondering if this game's going to take on a little bit more fervor just based on the awful news of today. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be nice, but there's also the real logistics of Pickett being back and Freiermuth being a little bit more healthy because he was coming off a foot injury from last week. And a couple other people are going to be back. So, there's the logistics of we're actually fielding a better team this week than we put on the field last week, a healthier team. So that combined with playing for Franco and all of the hype that's around everything, I think there's a real good chance that they come out with the W this week.
If only this game ended in another Mackey reception, or what if it end up in a Mackey reception for the Raiders?
No,
they're like,
hey,
that.
we need another Harris immaculate reception. Like we're gonna have another moment where now Najee gets an immaculate reception. 50 years after the first one, also against the Raiders. I love this. This is perfect.
Well,
I wouldn't mind if it was just a running back matchup where Harris actually broke 100. I believe the first time this season would be
that might be
stellar.
Oh man, he broke 100.
That'd be lovely.
Well, it was kind of funny too because last year, the Raiders beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh, and David Carr, I think it was even before or after the game, he was like, "Yeah, the macro reception's bunk. It was a bad call, and everyone freaked out about that." So I want more trash talk about the macro reception. And I'm sure what happened because obviously, with what happened to Franco, probably a bad taste. But
it's not a good look for anybody to come out and be like, "Oh, that sucked. You never should have gotten that." It's like, well, the man just died. Have some decency.
Yeah, but last year I wanted more trash talk about that. So yeah, I don't know. Strange. I know we're going kind of backwards, but with the Franco looking ahead to the Steelers Raiders game. But let's kind of end in a different way by going to the last game. Steelers played the Panthers. I'll tell you, I was not super confident because the game before the Steelers gave up 1 billion rushing yards against the Ravens.
Right.
Panthers, even without Christian McCaffrey, have developed a couple running backs that played well, but my goodness, Steelers held the Panthers to 21 rushing yards. Steelers ran the ball well. I don't think Mitch Trubisky had a Hall of Fame franchise game, but
he didn't throw an interception, and that's
right.
That's really, it's a strange position where that's really the benchmark that you just, like. Can you just get through the game without throwing an interception? That'd be awesome.
But think of it. They won 3 out of 4 with Kenny Pickett. I know he's a young quarterback. I know he's looking better. Hopefully he continues to develop. But really, Trubisky against Carolina followed that same Pickett game plan. Hey, take care of the ball. Don't throw any picks. Run defense play well, which they did against Carolina, and run offense run well, which they did. And I know NFL 2022 is a lot more about the passing and getting people in space. But still, if you can run the ball and your defense doesn't give that many run yards, you're going to win games. And to me, that's what they did. And that's what really came down to against Carolina.
I think it was a big help for them playing a team where you really didn't have to worry that much about the passing game. You didn't have to throw quite so much attention to the passing game and then really focus in on drilling down on the run game. So that was a positive thing, and to come out with the W.
Yeah, Steelers Twitter, we got to text somebody. I mean,
we do.
These wins are getting a little boring here. And the whipping boy, for good merit, Marcus Allen, He had a
Oh
straight.
boy, that poor guy.
Well, Carolina, the Sooners defense was playing solid. Carolina was like 4 from 27 for something. They're on the sidelines trying to figure out what they're going to do. Marcus Allen came over to the huddle, kind of peeked in and was starting to taunt them. I don't know. I thought Steelers Twitter was a little bit over the top, saying,
Yes.
cut him right now, cut him on the sideline or whatever. I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. Dumb call. I mean, a dumb play.
Dumb play. Dumb move. I have no idea what he was thinking.
Marcus Allen's still a decent special teams player. I think there's a lot of talk saying maybe he could be that like his dime linebacker or something. He's really never been that. I don't know. I mean, the Steelers need more talent. This isn't the time to just cut random people. So it is what it is.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't say cut him. I mean, it was a bonehead move. And I'm genuinely amused by all of the people who will then go out of their way to say, well, it's a symptom of the culture that Tomlin has in the locker room. Yeah, it is. Mike Tomlin is a coach that says, you're a human being, you're a man, you can make your own choices. I'm going to do my best to set you up so that you can do well. But it is on you to go out there and do it right. So then you have receivers who spend more time on TikTok than they should. You have people who taunt when they don't need to taunt. You also then have room for a Troy Polamalu to go over and jump over the offensive line at the time of a snap of a ball. I mean, you can't build a culture that has one without the other. It really is giving people an opportunity to go out there and use the best of their mentality to go out and play. This is a young man who made a dumb mistake because he was then focused on taunting another team who was already down, and it was completely unnecessary. I mean, can't the taunt just be you're about to give the ball over on downs and you can't get a field goal? Like that, let that be the taunt. But he made a mistake because he's a young guy who's getting an opportunity that he hasn't always gotten on other drives during the year. He just made a boneheaded move,
But think about this too. I know you can say, "Well, we're all adults and we should be."
Yeah,
it's competition, man. When
yeah.
Okay, I'll do myself as a dork for saying this, but I used to create myself in hockey games. So, big Pittsburgh Penguins fan. You can create somebody that looks like you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm playing in the hockey game. I score an NHL goal. I'm playing on a line with Sidney Crosby, and I'm like pumped up. And for a second, I'm like, man, I scored a goal. And this is just me playing a stupid hockey game, a video game or whatever. Man, if you do that in real life, Joe, I mean, I once had a dream that I laced up for the Columbus Blue Jackets and scored a goal, and I went crazy. I was like, "Oh, this is great!" So you can sit here and say, "Oh, Marcus Allen, what inconsiderate guy." He got caught in the moment, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, if you score a touchdown in an NFL game, freak out. I'd probably freak out. I'm 47. Come on. It happens.
It reminds me a bit of the all of the crap that everybody wanted to give Claypool last year when he celebrated a first down, but then there was all the mix-up in getting the ball back to the line of scrimmage, and they wanted to blame him for the situational awareness or whatever. I was like, he's a young player and he was excited about getting a first down toward the end of an important game, and he just made a boneheaded decision, man. Like,
well, here's the other
why does that then have to turn into we need to burn the entire Pittsburgh Steelers organization to the ground because one guy made a boneheaded move? It's just I don't get it.
And these guys aren't Madden, logos. These guys are real people.
Mm-hmm.
Look, if you had a tough week at work, say you messed up a couple of things, that'll affect you. If it affects you, and if it gives you a tough day and you have a hard day coming home or whatever, think about what these guys go through. Look, the Steelers haven't had a losing season. What's it been? 15, 16, 17 years. I'm not sure that a lot of players are listening to this podcast. I don't know if they are. Hey guys, email me, tell me what you think. But even if they don't, they read the media. Yeah, I'm sure they're not happy that they're 6-8. You know what I mean? And if you notice during that game, there's a lot of near fights, and you might say, "Oh, look at those guys; they're not being
Pretty
right."
chippy.
Well, they're all ticked off.
Yeah.
How do you think the Steelers feel that they're 6-8? We've griped about it every week, and we're dumb podcasters that do this because we enjoy it. If you're a football player making a lot of money and you have pride in what you do, think of Cam Hayward. Do you think Cam Hayward's having a lot of fun this year? I mean, I'm sure he has
fun when he gets a sack.
Right,
but he got a real nice one last week.
Right, but do you think Cam Hayward enjoyed losing?
Oh no, I mean it's not
by 35 to the Bills or losing to the Browns. No, I'm sure he gets mad like anybody else. So that whole game was chippy because
but to your point, or against your point, would be that he's not making bonehead moves like Marcus Allen is when he's ticked off.
Right,
because he's a professional and he's a mature, well coached player.
Right. And that's why maybe at the end of the year you sit there and say, "Hey, if I had to choose between Marcus Allen and somebody else, you might pick a more mature guy." Whatever the case may be.
But right now, just to cut somebody for the sake of cutting them, who else are going to put in there?
Yeah, Now again, if you're evaluating, if you say, "Hey, it comes down to Marcus Allen or this other guy," hey, what happened against Carolina might make you think about cutting Marcus Allen, but that's the decision for the offseason.
Yeah, and 2 years later, guess where all the TikTok happy guys are on other teams?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an immediate thing. Everybody wants the quick fix, but that's not the way it works in the NFL. Certainly not in Pittsburgh.
I got to say, though, the TikTok Juju Smith-Schuster, he could have been with Pittsburgh. Can you imagine they kept him and dropped Claypool at the beginning of the year? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think Juju's.
There's a lot of ifs, but I don't think Juju was interested in coming back for the amount of money that Pittsburgh was willing to pay.
And I know Paul Yanchek's from screaming if he hears this, but you've got catching passes from Pat Mahomes or Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky. Who are you picking? I'm picking Pat. Sorry. So.
Well, I mean, has he been catching that many?
He's been doing better as of late. He's not the top receiver, but he's picked it up. I mean, he's not. I wouldn't call him a Pro Bowl or anything, but he's definitely made a contribution. I mean, so.
And that was the thing when he was here. He was, we were talking about Pro Bowl with that guy. That's not what he's doing now.
It was funny though. The criticism about Juju was, I think it was like his second year. Remember, he had over 100 catches, but part of that was like Antonio Brown was playing at an unworldly level at that time, and sometimes people were asking, did he get that because he got a lot of looks with Antonio not being there? Or with Antonio being there, and then when Antonio left, his numbers kind of went down. So they're saying, is he better number 2 than number 1 receiver? So I don't know. And that, to me, that kind of wrapped up the Panthers game. It was a solid win. I thought the defense played well. Sam Darnold, he shouldn't be your quarterback. So, I mean, but no, I thought they played well. I think they really have a puncher's chance of beating the Raiders this week.
Oh, I think so too. I think the Raiders are yet another team that this season has just found a way to lose games that they probably shouldn't have lost. Yeah, and they're riding that streak right now, and they're having a real hard time putting it together to complete games. And where Pittsburgh has been the team still, even over the past number of weeks, they haven't given up. Where earlier in the season you could see them getting out of sync and they give up. The past couple of weeks they didn't give up and got back in sync and things got rolling again, and that's a real positive thing. It's just like Paul has hammered into us all season long that this is a transitional year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, And I'm finally to a place where I don't mind the transition if they look like the game on this past week. Like I don't need them to blow the doors off the place. I just need them to not shoot themselves in the foot all the time. that's all I need. I can. It's not that I need Super Bowl level play every single play. I just need to be able to look myself in the mirror on Monday. Say I'm rooting for a team that at least comes out with a fighting chance for each game.
It's definitely a winnable game. Defense has got to be careful though. David Carr can get you. Josh Jacobs, I wouldn't call him a franchise running back, but he's made his mark a couple of games. And who else?
Devontae.
Yeah, he's not the same as when he had Aaron Rodgers, but he can still beat you up. And the Steelers defensive backs are the best right now. So, but it's a very winnable game. They just got to step forward and take it. And make sure, because remember what happened last time with the Raiders, don't make any dumb last-second laterals like the Patriots did for whatever they were doing that helped the Raiders beat the Patriots.
Just nonsense. Yeah. Don't do nonsense and just go out and play the game.
Yeah, very, very wild. So,
and that's what Paul thinks about it.
Yes,
because Paul's going to show up here at 26 minutes into this thing.
Time to bring it home.
Yeah, he calls himself the closer. He's the Lee Smith of our podcast. He'll just come in for the last couple minutes and shut the door down. They'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, well, hey, Paul, we'll start with you. We've talked about Franco. We talked about the Raiders game and the Panthers. But what's your pick for the Raiders game?
21-17 Steelers.
Okay.
As long as we can.
You don't think they're going to get score 32 or anything like that?
No.
Come on, for Franco? Come on. That'd be perfect. They score 32.
That's that would be amazing. But that would be a giant leap for Matt Canada, and
we were
by him coming back.
We were making predictions that there will be 50 years after the Immaculate Reception, there will be another Immaculate Reception to a running back named Harris. That's what we're predicting for Saturday. That the stars will align. That the Lord will reach down from the heavens for Christmas Day and say, "It shall be." Angels will come over the stadium. It'll be a whole thing.
What's your pick, Joe?
Let's see. Realistically, it's supposed to be a pretty cold one, right? Like it's supposed to, because there's a storm that's coming through.
Yep.
I'm gonna say 17-14 Steelers.
Okay. And for me, I've had a horrible year of picking.
Yeah, you have.
So I got to pick against the Steelers. Not that I don't want the Steelers to win, but when I pick against the Steelers, they end up winning. So Raiders pulled this out, 24-20. But again, if you're a Steeler or a Steelers fan, you should be happy because that usually means good things.
Chris picks wrong.
Yes. Yeah. Believe me, it's been a bad year. All right. Yeah, we've got a couple other segments we're taping tonight. Hopefully you'll enjoy. Trying some fun things and kind of end of the year. Kind of. Well, you'll hear them later. It'll be good. We also had segments this week. Pierre Holland, we're talking more football. And Sharita Gaucher, I haven't had her on recently. She's a religion reporter from the Canton Repository. Had fun. Had a couple of segments. We talked about the Browns. She loves the Browns. She's a very smart person. I've been in a choice of football team. So we kind of went back and forth about the Browns and Steelers a little bit. We also talked about journalism. Journalism is kind of in trouble in general. So we threw out some ideas of how to fix journalism. And then, got to get you guys' opinion about this. We talked about Franklin Graham came out. Amy Grant is hosting her niece's wedding. her niece is marrying a woman, and Franklin Graham went off a little bit. And
well, good for Franklin.
Yeah, I tweeted at Franklin. I gotta see if Franklin tweeted me back. Probably not.
How dare she support her family?
Well, I kind of sat there.
How dare you support your family?
Well, I kind of sat there and said, why are we doing Christian on Christian violence on social media?
Christian violence.
Right. Because
at this point in the Roman Colosseum, we're both the Christians and the lions.
Right.
How is that working? How's that going to work out for us?
No matter what the issue is, you don't just start, hey, I mean, that'd be like if
I get upset about things. I like to tell Twitter about it. Definitely.
Right.
It's the way to solve my problems.
That's
scriptural. That's what Jesus told his disciples to do. Tweetest thou to thine enemies. Is that what he said, Paul? Is that in there?
Pretty much.
Well, if you look at Matthew 18:15, if you have the issue with your brother, you approach him individually, then you approach him with two other people.
On Twitter.
Yes, on Twitter. You retweet. No, I mean, you approach him individually. And I don't know how much Amy Grant and Franklin Graham hang out, but they're both well known enough for them to take each other's call. I mean, come on. So again, it's not about how you feel about a cultural issue. It's more about how do we show Jesus to others, and subtweeting each other is kind of weird. And to Amy Grant's credit, I don't think she's responded to him, but we're not supposed to go off on each other like that. I don't know. It's just very strange. So very weird. All right. So yeah, check that out a little bit too. For Paul and Joe, this is Chris. Have a great night.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Mooney. Welcome to what is our new Hope Interrupted podcast based on the work from our book, Hope Interrupted, that I co-authored with my good friend Byron McCauley.
Hey, Jennifer, I'm looking forward to this podcast as much as I was looking forward to writing this book with you. We hope to interview some high impact folks as well as have a little fun.
We're going to cover stories of hope. To learn more about our podcast and our book, please visit www.hopeinterrupted.com.